I always ask everyone, when did your creative journey begin?
Ooh, that's a good question. I just remember always loving to draw.
Mm.
I actually, before I could draw, I remember asking my mom to draw pictures of me and babysitters to ask, like, to draw pictures of me because I was just so fascinated by mark making. And like the fact that they could draw a circle was so cool to me, like as
Yeah.
a little kid trying to draw a circle and having it be all squiggly. And my mom and my babysitters did it so effortlessly that I just found that fascinating. Just so I would ask them to draw pictures of me all the time. And
Mhm.
then when I was able to like start trying and practicing, I remember sitting at the table with my oldest brother. He liked to draw too. And we would just draw from our imaginations and come up with funny stuff all the time and just laughing with him at the table.
Yeah.
I've always loved drawing and loved I've always kind of been sort of I wanted to be able to do it better, I guess. Just
Mm.
always wanted to improve and was like, okay, well, I can do this now, but I would like to be able to do this other thing. So I guess I'll practice that now.
Wow, I love that. The fine art, sculpture, and drawing.
Mhm.
I just would like to know, how have those years of education and exploration shaped your skill set today?
Um, so so yeah, in college I focused mainly on sculpture and ceramics.
Mhm.
And I did that because I really love form. I love three-dimensional forms and volumes and masses. And I hadn't done much of that in high school. I had mainly focused on drawing, which is flat.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of this fun new avenue to try. And what I found was that while I was sculpting, it changed the way I was drawing.
Mm.
And when I was drawing, it would change what I was sculpting. So it was like the two were building on each other. I would notice textures that I wouldn't have noticed otherwise, while I was drawing. And the line quality became really important while I was drawing. So then while I was sculpting, I was paying more attention to the silhouette and the line quality of the textures and things that I was using. So it was just a really interesting interplay of things
Oh, I love.
there as far as like the sculpture goes. And you can see in my work, I talk to people about this all the time. If you're looking at my paintings, you can see there is sculpture in them. There's
Mhm.
structure to the like lace fishes that I paint. And the cats, like there's a lot of high relief textures in there that, if I had clay, I could sculpt those things.
Mhm.
But the nice thing about a two-dimensional surface is that it's not something you're going to bump into and knock over, and it's not something that's going to collect a lot of dust. So that's what I love about the painting and the drawing aspect of it. I can capture those three-dimensional forms, like things that I would want to sculpt, but I don't have to worry about them getting broken.
Can you walk us through how long it took you to develop your current style? Was there like a moment where you was like, "Oh my God, this is it," and it clicked?
Well, so I guess the style that I've been building has kind of been a lifelong process. It really started, when I was learning to draw realistically.
Mhm.
And every time I sit down to paint, it's a press toward what I want to be and being better than I was the last time I stepped up to my easel, as far as trying to get that realism and the softness of the textures or the hardness of the textures. I'm really stepping in, trying to be as observant and as sensitive as I can possibly be in that moment. The concepts that I'm working with, though, those are something that was kind of like what you were saying, like, oh, this is it. This is what really works for me. Because I think one of the difficult things to decide as an artist is, what is my subject matter? What do I really want to paint? Or what do I want to sculpt, whatever it happens to be? And I found that I really liked children's book illustrations. And I felt like this is kind of, people think of illustrations as not being like high art or whatever. And I say that like I was trying to achieve high art. No, that's not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to find what I wanted to do. And so I was just kind of like, I really like these illustrations, but I also really like realism. So maybe I'll try merging the two together in some way. And that way I can maintain that like desire to be so sensitive and really try to get the realism and capture what I find beautiful in the world, but also share an idea that makes me laugh and gets me excited. And so that's what I ended up trying. And my around this time, my brother had written a children's book, and I decided, well, I was working full time in a different career at the time. I was like, well, I'll work on illustrations for this book for a couple of hours every night and see how, see if I can get it done. And this is the same brother that I used to draw pictures with at the kitchen table, and we would just laugh and have so much energy. And his book there was humor to it, and the characters were sort of silly. And so as I was envisioning these characters and starting to draw them, there was, that silliness. And I was like, I really love drawing things like this. I think this is maybe my subject matter. And so it took me about 1.5 years to finish the illustrations in that book. But my skills in drawing from my imagination were not there yet. So I was using a lot of photographic references and trying to merge together what was going on in my brain and what I was capable of with using these photographs as references. And that was really kind of where I learned to meld the two together in that project. And so after I finished that book, we were going to do a Kickstarter campaign to try to raise funds to publish the book. And in order to get people to consider doing that, I was like, well, maybe I could do some art fairs and paint something eye-catching to go along with it so that people would maybe be attracted to my booth. And at the time, I had really only been doing like watercolor, pen and ink drawings. I hadn't done anything big, really, but I wanted to try it. And I wanted to do oil painting because that's really bold and that I felt like that would be more eye-catching. So my daughter had these really cool dinosaur toys, and I thought, oh, these would be kind of fun to paint. And then she put a Barbie tutu on her dinosaur one day, and I just laughed. It just made me laugh out loud. It was this little raptor toy with its little hands, its big sharp teeth, and it's sort of like sitting like this. And it had this fluffy, bright colored tutu on it, and it just cracked me up. So I was like, I'll draw some of those.
What point did you go, you know what, feathered cats,
Well, that was sort of an evolution, I have an attraction to these like delicate textures.
I know you said you started with watercolor, right? And then you moved to oil painting. Like that's like a pretty big transition. What did that look like for you in terms of like developing, like, because you're obviously super good at it now, but like how long did that take for you to learn?
I learned just so much just by doing it. I just, I hadn't read books, but I had heard little tips and tricks, and I was trying to use them as I was painting. But then like as the painting started to take shape, I started to see things on my own to be like, oh, I think it would look better if I did this. And then, do that. And then, yep, that does look better, or nope, that doesn't work. So, right, or whatever. There's a lot of guess and check going on. So that was like my first oil painting. And I did, more after that and learned a lot on my own. And I was using fairly big brushes because that was another thing in college was like, don't use little tiny brushes, use big ones and, get those gestural marks and things. And so that was kind of what I was going for. That was sort of what I thought a painter should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met another painter, portrait painter by the name of Duffy Sheridan, who lives in my area. And I was part of an art group, and he came to the art group. And we had a studio tour, and he actually came to my house to see my paintings. And he sat in my booth for a really long time, was looking really closely, and was actually like touching the surfaces of the paintings. And I was kind of like, I don't think you're supposed to do that. But it's Duffy Sheridan, so he can do whatever he wants. He's like this very famous portrait painter. He wins all the really big competitions. He won the Art Renewal Center painting, like portrait painting category and figurative painting category. So I was like, you can do whatever you want. But he looking at my paintings, and he looks at me and he goes, I get the sense that you'd really like to paint more realistically. Is that true? And I said, yes, I would love to paint more realistically. And he invited me to come to his studio and see kind of what he does and learn a little bit from him. And what I learned when I went to his studio was he used watercolor brushes on his painting, like little tiny watercolor brushes. And I was like, you can do that? And of course, you're the artist. You can do whatever the heck you want. But I, at the time, was trying to do what I thought I was supposed to do. Yeah. And then I saw this painter doing things that I didn't realize you were allowed to do. And so I was like, okay, I'll try that. And that was around the time that I painted my first feather boa. And I don't know that I could have done that without those tiny brushes. And he also used really thin paint, which I hadn't really thought about. Like he thins it a lot with turpentine and gets a kind of a really thin underpainting first. And then paints another layer on top. And he just kind of kept doing more and more washes. That's how he got that really realistic look. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I didn't really even think about that. Like I just kind of put the paint on the canvas and left it there. And if I was happy with it, I had left it. But he really kind of got me to think a little differently. So when I came back to do my next painting, I approached it very differently. I thinned the paint a lot more. And it just gave me a lot more flexibility. So if I made a mistake, it was easy to erase. You just take some turpentine and get rid of it. Or if it dries that way, it's not so hard to paint over it because it's so thin, there's no texture to worry about. Right. So he gave me some really good ideas to play around with. He also was the one who showed me to do some sketches on the tracing paper so that you can layer things on top of each other. And so, yeah, I learned a ton just from that. I think it was maybe like a 1 or 2 hour conversation with Duffy.
And you're also a writer, and specifically in philosophy. So I want your take on this. Like, what do you think needs to change in society's understanding of creative roles or creative work?
When I'm creating, and I think anyone who is really trying to understand reality in a visual way by drawing, which is kind of how I see what I'm doing when I'm drawing. Not everybody sees drawing that way, but I do. I'm really trying to see what is there, and I'm trying to do it justice. And to do that, I have to be super sensitive to what I'm seeing, as well as super sensitive to what I'm drawing, and be willing to see my mistakes and correct them constantly. So when I'm drawing, it's a serious thing for me. Like, I'm taking it seriously. That's part of why I'm wrestling with it. I'm not just, expressing, I'm really trying as hard as I can to do justice to this form that is out there in the world, and I'm trying to get it right on my paper. Maybe you hear from people who aren't artists and maybe they don't value art as much. You hear them saying, oh, it's not that serious, and people don't really do or care about that anymore. But then going to Duffy Sheridan's house and seeing his beautiful, amazing artwork and knowing that he's selling these paintings for like $50,000. There's people who value this work, and they don't think it's just a hobby. They see this, I think, as they're relics, the work that when they find a piece of artwork that they value enough to pay $50,000 for, that's something that's special to them that they don't think they're going to see again, or like that's a one-of-a-kind sort of thing that they want to have in their possession because it, maybe it moved them, or maybe it got them to see something that they didn't realize was possible. Duffy's paintings are just so realistic and beautiful. And that's what I aspire to when I step in front of my canvas. Like, I'm trying to create something that's one of a kind, that I have put my all into. And, hopefully it inspires someone else to put their all into something that they love to do too.
Yeah. What was the hardest business skill that you had to learn or have learned?
Fortunately, in the area where I live, there's a lot of outdoor markets that are inexpensive to get into. And so I started with those and was lucky enough to be juried into some of those. And then I've also learned that putting my work in magazines is a really good way to sell it too. And I don't know if that works for everybody, but the work that I do is a little unusual, and people don't often see that in a magazine.
Yeah.
And so I've managed to get a few sales from those magazine editorials too. So
how do you even do that? Do you just reach out to them?
So actually, the Celebration of Fine Art is the show that I did in Scottsdale that was really good. And as part of their show, they asked us, would you like to pay, I think it was like $700 or something like that, to have your painting included in one of the publications that we're working with. And at the time I was like, ooh, that's kind of a lot of money, but I'm doing this show and I've never tried that before. So sure, I will give it a try. And, if it doesn't work out, I'll know that. But if it does work out, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And so I did. I did that, and they put one of my paintings. They did a full page in American Art Collector. It was the Hooker's Dream painting. So it was a painting of one of the orange fish made of lace flying over a little a girl with a crochet hook. So they put that in that magazine, and I got an email from somebody who was interested in that painting, and she ended up buying it from me through that magazine publication. And she'd never seen the physical painting. She just really loved it, and she liked the story behind it. And she that painting sold for $14,000.
Wow.
Through that magazine publication. And I was like, I didn't know that I would be able to find a buyer for that painting, because it took me a month and a half to paint it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have to put a high price on it. I can't just let that go.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they put it in that magazine, I was like, well, maybe there'll be somebody who will want it. And sure enough, there was. And that was the first time that something like that happened to me. That it happened to me again with a magazine publication where I had painted something that I was like, I don't think anyone's going to be able to like or want to pay this much for it. And I sold it.
I love that you have such a passion for drawing, but then you also like writing and illustration seem to kind of be pretty close by.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the book that you wrote. If I remember, There Will Be Nonsense. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the name of it. Yeah.
So this was not your first book that you illustrated because you did one with your brother. Was that kind of like what inspired you to create another illustration or
Yeah, so that book came because of people coming to my booth at art fairs and looking around and, loving what they're seeing. And I think they may have sensed, maybe not consciously, but had sensed that there was sort of an illustrative quality to it. Like maybe these are inspired by children's book illustrations because they are. I mean, that was what inspired me to begin that journey was those children's book illustrations that I loved. And so people would come into my booth and say, oh, do you have a children's book? And I did not have a children's book because the paintings themselves tell stories, but they aren't like, I'm not repeating the same characters. There isn't a cohesive story that goes with each of the paintings. So I was like, well, that would be really fun, but I don't like the idea of having to paint the same character over and over again.
Okay.
But as people would ask about it, I started to think, well, how could I turn these into some kind of a children's book or some kind of book that you could enjoy? And I started to think, well, what if I paired the paintings with questions that would get you to kind of tell your own story? So that's what I ended up doing. And I actually had some time coming up where I was not going to be able to paint for a little while. I had a surgery. And so I was like, well, I can work on this book while I'm recovering from this surgery. So I did that. And I wrote the story, not the story, but the questions to go with the paintings. And I sent them to a copy editor the same lady that I used for the first children's book that I did. So I sent them to her and she did the editing and everything. And I was like, well, I want to have my artist statement and my kind of about the author autobiography and everything there. So she edited all of that. And I had learned a lot from that previous book of what I would like for this book to look like. And I wanted it to have a dust jacket and I wanted it to just be really well done. It was the main goal. I wanted it to be a cloth cover with gold foil graphics and putting the dust cover on top and have lots of white space. So the questions are really short and sweet. And then the pictures themselves are where you spend the most time because there's a lot of details and a lot to appreciate there. And what's fun about having it be a page in a book is that every time you open that book, you'll notice new things that you maybe didn't notice before. So that was really how the book happened, just by people asking about it a lot. And finally me coming up with an idea that would work well with the paintings, as well as my philosophy background.
Yeah, I mean, because you do have the type of work that you have, like it is so fun that I can see kids looking at it and being like, oh my God, Mom, look at this, I can see them having a blast.
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite memories so far at an art booth was I went to a children's book fair and reading this book with a little boy who was just mesmerized by the experience. And he knew that I had drawn the pictures, and so he was just like, looking at me and looking at the paintings, and like he was just this sweet little kid, and he just was just really enjoying the book. And I finished reading it to him, and then his mom goes, would you like to have one of these? And he looks at me and he goes, yes, I would love to have, it was just so sweet and innocent. And then I was like, can I write a note for you? And he was just so excited, just so sweet and gentle and innocent. And I just, I wrote a little note to him and put his name in it and gave it to him. And he just hugged it like it was the treasure of his life. And it was really sweet. It made me feel really honored that I touched him in that way.
Yeah, that's got to be like a passed down book.
Yeah. I hope that he has that memory of reading it with me. It was really fun.
When did you decide to make art more than a hobby?
My kids were small, and I was like, if I don't get back to making art my life, then I'm not going to do it. I need to get back to it, because that was my plan originally.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing art done by other people, and they were having success. And I just knew with my like how I had pushed myself my whole life, wrestled to learn to draw and paint, or not, I hadn't really done much painting at that point, but wrestled to learn to draw for all of those years. I felt like I could really do something here. Like, I'm seeing these other people be successful, and I think I can do what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I don't try. So that was around the time that I decided that I wanted to try illustrating that children's book that my brother wrote. And part of that was the reason why I was able to do that was because of the goal setting that I was working with students on at the University of Phoenix. I was an academic counselor there, and I was helping them come up with plans for how they were going to succeed no matter what happened in their lives. Because at the University of Phoenix, the students there are non-traditional. They have jobs, they have families. They're trying to add on top of all of that an education. And so I had a job and I had a family, and I wanted to add on top of that, trying to become an artist. And so I was like, well, I'll use these skills for goal setting that I'm using with my students to make my own goals. And that was how I ended up moving towards getting back into artwork again.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you found your way back.
Me too.
Do it.
Oh, this is my little friend. This is Tortuga.
Oh, hi.
She poses for most of my paintings.
So cute.
She's very sweet.
Aw.